Yes, you're absolutely right that GPUs are underutilized at lots of our own enterprises, lots of our own customers, and there are a variety of reasons like for that happening, like being able to feed the GPU with enough data to keep it busy fast enough, having the networking and the storage fast enough to get the data into the GPU. So given that we've got this problem that GPUs are underutilized, what can VMware do about this? And you hit the nail on the head, Frank, which is GPUs are actually shareable across two virtual machines or two data scientists or more in many cases. And how do we share them? We share them by presenting the GPU as a virtualized GPU, a virtual GPU or a vGPU, in the same way exactly as we present a virtual CPU today. I mean, all of us in the VMware world, we understand what a virtual CPU is. We decide whether it's 4 or 8 or 32 or whatever number is suitable to the application. The more parallel the application, the more virtual CPUs we assign. The same is true with virtual GPUs. A typical vGPU, a typical physical GPU today has 40 gigabytes of memory or 80 gigabytes of memory. That's a big device. To some of the high-end data scientists, it's not. They want 2 of them or 4 of them or 8 of them. And they actually need that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But to us folks in the enterprise world, which is a different world in many ways, sharing GPUs is actually perfectly reasonable and actually a requirement because of that one pod to one GPU that I talked about in the Kubernetes world. So what we do is we install a driver into ESXi called a host driver, install a driver into your guest operating system. That's taken care of for you by Kubernetes anyway. And you have now the ability to assign a portion of a GPU to one VM. And that could be 1/2 or 1/4 or 1/7 of the physical GPU be used by that VM. And that's very efficient because you can pack more than one workload onto the GPU. Now, the question immediately will come up from people who know this world. Aren't I going to get interference between these different VMs that are sharing the physical GPU? Because they're on the same hardware. And NVIDIA, whom we've been working with a lot over the past 4 or 5 years, they spotted that problem, especially for the GPUs being used by the cloud providers. And the clouds all have GPUs in them, and said, we've got to have a sharing technology here behind this virtual GPU idea. And they invented recently in the Ampere family of A100, A30 GPUs, they invented something called Multiinstance GPU. And what that is the ability to say, I'm going to get 1/2 of this physical GPU and dedicate all of the hardware in that half, the cores, the memory, the crossbars, the level 2 cache, the level 1 cache, all of the hardware that makes up a slice of that physical GPU, and hand it to this VM exclusively. No other VM can touch that slice. It's isolated down to the hardware level. And so that's called multi-instance GPU. And you can think of that as a backing technology, a technology that's under the covers of a virtual GPU that you've given to a VM. So you can give 4 virtual GPUs to a VM if you want to. And those virtual GPUs today, the rules are they must represent full physical GPUs. So you can scale this up to 4 or in the future 8 GPUs if you want to. But today, the most common usage is to say, I recognize the problem that you pointed out, Frank. These GPUs are underutilized. I'm going to give a data scientist 1/4 of a physical GPU to begin with. And then if they just can't work with that, we'll increase the share. We'll change the virtual GPU size to another size and give them even more. So what virtualization effectively brings to this world is the ability to right size your VM and right size your GPU allocation to the job that you're doing, rather than the overkill that's happening in the bare metal world where, a data scientist says, I need a GPU to myself, I need 4 GPUs to myself, and the poor administrator has to say, okay, I'm going to spend $40,000 on you. And then utilization comes back at 20% or 15% or something like that. So with virtualization, you're effectively optimizing your costs here.